Welcome to Market Buzz. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician and host of the Market Buzz. Each show we do a deep dive into different industries using weekly charts. Today we're going to use daily to see what is happening on a long timeline. Please follow me on Twitter at Schnell Investor, and you can also find my blogs on gregschnell.com as well as StockCharts.com. So I'm recording this on Tuesday for a Wednesday presentation. So it's Tuesday was pretty rough. The market's been selling off, and clean tech has really been getting hit hard. So that's why we're going to go through these stocks. One of the things that's important is when everything's selling off is to at least be aware of what's going on, and then at least find the names that you might be interested in should they start to make a bottom. And then we could take a look. I don't see many in here that are ones that I'm ready to start to buy yet, but I think it's important that we keep abreast of the situation, because when they do turn, there could be some pretty nice bounces, even 20-30%. So clean tech has been beaten down a lot, a flyover on the worst and the best. And if you didn't get a chance to see my monthly conference call last week, this spelling out of the YouTube address is fine, and you could go ahead and just type that in. I also put the link in my newsletter, or not in my newsletter, in the footnotes under the YouTube, so you could catch it there. And the website's constantly improving. Playoffs are coming, and it's team rotation. And one thing I like about sports is its analogy to the stock market is pretty important. What happens in sports is you have these sudden twists and turns, and all of a sudden some team vaults forward. And we've seen the same thing in the stock market with copper and lumber, just literally soaring off the charts, and tech that had been the outright winner sticking around. So anyway, I like the theme of sports as an analogy to the stock markets. Playoffs are coming. We got team rotation. So anyway, if you're interested in watching for these rotations as they set up, I think it's pretty important to be aware of how things have moved. And if you missed all of my tips on the clean tech topping out and that kind of stuff, then perhaps you'd like to get in with me following it on the other side as it starts to turn up. So anyway, go to gregschnell.com/explore for just $4.97, which is about 40% off the regular price. Okay, let's head over to the charts. So number one, so this is the kind of sell-off we're facing intraday. But one thing I like to look at here, see how the Dow is down 1.7, the S&P is down 1.45, and the Nasdaq's down 1%. It has been a long time since the Nasdaq has been not leading to the downside. So perhaps we're looking at a low here, and I'm not ready to call that in any way yet, but I do think we want to get set up for it. The best part of investing is being ready. So as the breakouts start to occur, you've got your trade on. So anyway, here's the NASDAQ cliff that we've been living in, and you can see it's been a pretty meaningful free fall. We're trying to find some rally support here, and you can see the PPO has been downtrending for a while. The NASDAQ itself, the chart broke below the 50-day moving average. It hasn't done that very often. And this is the NASDAQ 100. And if we look more broadly, if you go all the way back to the 2020 lows and draw a trend line up here, we've broken below that trend line. So that's one of the reasons that we want to be aware of the changing behavior here. Now, when we look at the point and figure view, everything still looks good. There's support in around this 12.5 level, 12.7 level. It's a little bit down from here. I actually think the market wants to break down a bit more. And if we drew a trend line under here and just said if that starts to break, we'll probably go down and visit a lower level. But the main reason to stay aware of what's going on is I still think the reopening trade is part of the trade. I still like the oils. Copper had a huge sell-off yesterday, a big reversal day, and Freeport-McMoRan had a 50 million share day, which was the largest day since the whole 2020 rally started. So that just tells me that some people are starting to take money off the table on some of those big winning trades. And it probably wouldn't hurt to at least reduce position size in some of those if that's where you're at. Anyway, so what we're watching for here is how far does the market break down. 12.5 is the 200-day moving average for the NASDAQ 100. I don't know if the correction lasts till June 1st or if the correction starts, if it ends today. My bigger point is let's get set up for that. So here's the clean tech names, and I've set it to 3 months, which was roughly the Jan-Feb time frame. And you can see that some of these names, these car companies have been, or vehicle companies have been hit hard, down 70 and 80%. And then on the other end of the scale in my clean tech list is all of the commodity companies, and you've seen steel, copper, these types of companies have been doing really well. The old car companies like Volkswagen and that kind of thing have done tremendously well. The big point I want to make here is if this is about to start to change, and when you look at Freeport-McMoRan, beautiful chart, but you can see the bottom, the volume just barely in the bottom right there. It's soared off the top of the page, and one of the things that we want to use is either really low volume or really high volume, and we have to always remember exceptions like vacations, around vacation periods like Christmas and Thanksgiving are traditionally very low volume. And then we also have some days that have extremely high volume, and they're usually associated with quadruple options expiration days. So with the exception of that, at least try and be aware when you're starting to see big volume changes. Usually that means some people are changing their chip structure where they've got their money going. So today I want to just quickly roll through starting at the worst, going to the first, and the reason is if copper and all of that is going to start to take a break, let's just go look and see if there's anything to find. So again, market down hard on Tuesday, recording this at 11:30. So one of the things that we want to see here is there a chance that these markets can start to rally? And you could see a couple of days ago, tried to get a rally going, ended up closing the day relatively unchanged, and then fell apart again. So is that what we're in for? I just don't know. And what we want to watch for is if there's some names that are starting to build little bases. Like one of the things I'd like here is this PPO, if it's going to make a higher low here, that could be an attractive place as an example. Now, I'm not picking the winners and losers here. I want to wait for the charts to change. I think we can all see there's a bit of a downtrend going on here. These charts had gone up meaningfully. The date timing I've picked on all of these charts is just before the November low. A lot of them went on a big run into the February high and then topped out. So pretty good, right? The trend line, when it broke, it was kind of a meaningful clue. Rarely did this thing make a higher high. Just kept drizzling lower. And so we don't have any real reason to start looking yet. I mean, if anything, you're buying a falling knife at this point. But a lot of these names are trying to rally on a big down day in the overall markets. So fuel cell energy, you can see the big candles here. And again, what would it take to get me interested? Well, the numbers are shrinking so quickly here, but a move back up to $10, which was just last week, would be a 20% gain. Like just how fast they're falling. So this logarithmic scale where it gets really compressed, this was over a $30 level, sitting at $7. Is there a reason to start buying it? Yeah, well, maybe not, but again, we want to start watching for those bases. So here's Archimoto, really. You can just see beaten down. And again, I've looked at the worst first, and we'll quickly work our way through these charts. So one of the things with XL Fleet, they had put in a big bid and didn't get it, and the chart just kept falling apart. Perhaps this is a double bottom low here, where you start to make, like you can see the PPO's trying to make a higher low after a big downtrend. That's the positive reversal you kind of want to watch for. Now, I just have to change my chart settings at the top here. Let me go down to Excel fleet. Here we go. Okay, so what we want to do here is change this to annotate, and then what we can do, again, the problem we've got obviously is the stock is making lower lows, but momentum is starting to change and make higher highs. So that's at least a positive. And then what we want to be aware of is the big downtrend in momentum that we had, although it doesn't look like it on the chart, still looks like pretty downtrend to me. I mean, you can just draw a line like that. It's getting beat up, right? We know that. So the real question is now, can it start to turn? So let's just pick an example here. We can use this $6 level as support. It briefly pulls back. Now it starts to break out. Going above $6, it breaks this trend line, breaks back above, and we have something to shoot against. So it can hold, if it can hold $6, you'd like to own it. If it can't hold $6, you want to just keep letting it go. Now, I'm not for a moment, as the market is just starting to break down, saying buy the name. I'm just saying we want to start to pick our charts and work through them technically to try and find a level. We'd also like to see some volume start hitting the chart, some people starting to buy up these stocks. So here's Maxion Solar, and you can see we briefly broke below the November lows. Perhaps we can ride out of here again. Big downtrend in momentum. Again, all of these are trying to rally on a pretty ugly day in the market, so perhaps there's something going on here. Here's Rena Solar, just meaningful downtrend, 34 to 7, 75% off. Do you like that deal? I don't know. It's not. It's still pretty ugly. Here's Plug Power, big name in hydrogen, was up at $72, down here at a $20 handle instead. I think hydrogen's where the world's going. So whether it's Ballard or Plug Power, I think you always want to have these stocks on your radar, but it's been a meaningful compression here. Gevo 16 to 5, 70% off again. Doesn't look like that because of the arithmetic or the logarithmic scaling on the chart. If I used an arithmetic one, it would show that more meaningfully. Ballard Power, look at that, $2 change from the low today. Briefly broke below the November lows. So all of that makes me a little bit more interested in some of these. Sorry, my voice was getting a little crackly there. Okay, let's keep working through the chart. American Battery, this one was up around $5 down to $1.50. We can all see that it's trying to build some sort of a base here, and perhaps it can finally get going. Okay, try that and see if the voice gets a little better. Okay, here we go. Starting to, a positive PPO on this stock would be a pretty interesting piece of information, but you can also see the 100-period moving average rolling through here. And if it can't get back above that, I think you probably just want to avoid it. I mean, this is pretty long-term stuff, but again, they do have an offering that is needed by all of the move to electric. Helion Holdings, this was a $42 stock back in October. It's $8 now. I'm not getting too excited about any of the car companies specifically. I'm more interested in some of the technologies around the car companies. I think that might be a better place to look. Beam Global, definitely a downward trend, 75 to 25. Horizontal support and resistance in here, call it at $26. Can it get back above that and start to make higher highs? That would be good. You can see the momentum is negative and continues to just, the charts got negative momentum, and that's what we see in the price action. But it is, at least the momentum's not continuing to deteriorate is probably the best way to say that. Ballard Power, this is the U.S. listing again. Some interested buyers starting to show up here. Pretty big upthrust, and, maybe it's the ARC Foundation, all of those ETFs trying to buy up some of these names, but I don't think they can buy them all. Romeo Power, I think we all like that name, but charts definitely 38 to 7. Pretty weak level. Can it hold this double bottom? Good question. Ocean Power trying to make energy out of the waves. Big downtrend again, back under $2 for the first time since the November rally started. Solo Mechanica, they actually have a vehicle. It's a single passenger car, really small for moving around. It's almost like an enclosed motorcycle. Pretty interesting, but got all the way down to $3. I was trying to buy it in here around the 7 to 8 level, and I wrote up a big part of this on the upside. So anyway, again, they actually have a car, and perhaps there's something there to it. Westwater Resources breaking support just today. Again, some buyers starting to step in. Is it just the market makers? We'll find out if by the end of the day, if all of a sudden these stocks are rolling over, or the end of the week, if they're making lower lows. So here's Sunworks. Again, just a series of lower highs and lower lows. The push down today is pretty clear. A little bit of horizontal support in here around $7, so maybe something can grab on there. SunPower, clearly out of favor. One of the reasons that the solar companies are so out of favor is copper and steel are two of their biggest input costs to building a solar farm. So copper's up meaningfully. It broke out to new all-time highs last week. Steel is also breaking out. The steel SLX chart is at 10-year highs. So these cost inputs for the profitability of solar farms quickly deteriorates when their input costs are so high. And again, steel is the single biggest component in a solar farm, and copper is obviously a meaningful one as well. So as these numbers are doubling up, you can see the pain is starting to show up for making these solar farms. Okay, EOS Energy, 32 to 11. Again, we're looking at the worst first here. Arrow down pretty hard. I do like the fact that this PPO is starting to build kind of multiple bounces where it's as it's pulling back, it's finally starting to have some rallies in there. Now the real question is, can it finally get a rally that starts? I don't know anything about the company yet, but again, 11 to 4, pretty nice move down. Canoe. Wow, this was a crazy chart, right? Look at the day it made its high. All of a sudden, you see a pop up to $25, comes down meaningfully, falls to 13 within 2 weeks, and now it's at 7. So just when it looked like a good deal, buying it at the 100-day support and resistance level, it just continues to make lower highs and lower lows. LiDAR, which is the technology used for the autonomous driving, breaking below support here at $12. I would not give up on some of these names. PPO got right back to zero now. I want to remind everybody that Amazon was 300 back in the year 2000 and went all the way to 5. It was a great company. You had to have the courage to buy it at almost zero after such a big fall. Now, these companies all have meaningful technology. The real question is, can it get to market, and can they make any money from it? And GPS was probably one of the single biggest things in our time, and yet if you go look at the companies of TomTom and Garmin, I mean, while they've had great spurts, they haven't been able to hold that technology or the profit of that technology for a long time. Anyway, here we are breaking down below these lows. I think a company like LiDAR, or the technology like LiDAR, you want to keep on your name or on your list of things to watch. Pioneer Power, pretty much a straight downtrend here, 11 to low threes. Jinko Solar, again, we already talked about why solar's so weak. TPG Pace Finance, Benefit Finance Corp. I think I had this set up as a SPAC, and it's just came out, popped, and now rolling all the way down. Flux Power, same thing. The DeLorean's no longer here. All of a sudden, this thing is pushing down pretty hard from 22 to 8. CBAK Energy Technology, without question, trying to fill this gap back here. Got it filled. Now it's breaking down. Probably starting to lose, most of its supporters at this point. Volume is still pretty heavy, 2 million shares a day, but you can see not holding up very well, and relative to the volume that was here when people were interested, continues to go lower. Green Power Motor Company, small Canadian company, $44 to 18. Wow. And look at the PPO momentum again. When some of these start to get at least positive momentum, that might be a better place to take a look at them. Looking in on polar power, just continuing to get crushed. Horizontal support and resistance level showing up here at 19. Doesn't look to me like it's going to hold. STEM Inc. Science, technology, engineering, probably. Anyway, breaking down PPOs at its lowest level, not really a great place to start to look at it. Big downtrend here for Lightning E motors. Oh, and one thing to know about, so once the company changes their name, you can just click on this up here and we could update this. So we could just call it 0330 ZEV or ZEV Lightning E motors. Anyway, when you're in this mode of 10 per page, you can update the chart name right there by just clicking on it. So anyway, big downtrend here. 17 to 7, we've seen this movie. All of these are getting hurt. Now we're starting to find some support here on Ideanomics. The PPO made a higher high at least. That's a start for me. Perhaps it can actually kick it up. Let's just annotate this chart with some horizontal lines and then downtrend line from here. Whoops. Grab this, swing it over here, and put that on there. Now, can we start to just build sideways a little bit? Can we get a positive PPO on here, like just anything above 0? And at least it gives us a place to look, and we don't have that yet. But again, try to put it on our watch list and start to watch. Nikola, we can see this has actually made a higher low. Wow. This name has been given up. They were going to make a competitive pickup truck and a competitive highway tractor trailer unit, and I know Tesla is trying to come out with their highway tractor trailer. Again, they're being hit on all fronts with competition, but this one is trying to make a bit of a head and shoulders base here in momentum. Might be worth watching above $12 if it can start to make a move. And again, long-term hold, I'm not talking anything about that. It's more, trying to get a rip from 12 to 18 or something, 50% gain. Here's Bloom Energy. Again, a nice big candle here trying to find support down here. Was 44, cut in half to 22. Perhaps meaningful change starting to, again, the chart should start to get better. Sunrun, that's clearly pushing down. Now, some of these could probably rally just on steel and copper finally rolling over. Perhaps they can start to look a little better. So if copper continues to decline, then you might get the opportunity in solar for these to expand. Candy Technologies, that doesn't look like candy to me. It looks like sour milk. That one's just terrible. Renewable Energy Group coming down, just grinding lower. It was 112 down to 55, 50% off. Xpeng was way back up at 75 down to 25, so 2/3 discount. Can it hold? Now again, my sort order was based on the last 3 months, so it doesn't take into account the fact that it hit its highs back in November. So all of these charts are meaningfully getting hurt. Here's SPI Energy sliding down. LI Auto, big car company in China, down to $16 from 48, 2/3 off. Green Power Motor Company, this was the one in Canada that U.S. listing now. So again, 34 to 15, big pullback. Boyd, BYD, this one is big in China, and again, 36 to 18, so that's pretty meaningful. And that, just when you think, the stock's starting to hold an uptrend here, well, I'll just hold it, all of a sudden 10 days down in a row. And one of the things I like on this chart, don't get me excited about buying it yet, but one thing I like on this chart is you can kind of see a downtrend in momentum. If this could start to improve and again start to make at least a higher low or something like that, perhaps you're getting to a place, and we'd like to see some volume start to show up. I'm just trying to show you how I would analyze these for a place to look on the chart. I do like it when the long-term momentum changes. For me, that's one of my big trade clues. We can also, on this chart, also you can see this head and shoulders structure here. Volume decreasing as you go. That's very typical in a head and shoulders topping structure. So just, it's got all the clues of that. Long-term top is in place. If you're trading them for a short period of time, there's some good quick money to be made when they do turn. On the other hand, you don't have to be in a rush to buy these when they're so ugly. Clean Spark plug-in network, I believe. They have a commercial on TV as well about, I think it's home energy or something, whatever. I'm not a specialist on their individual technologies. I'm looking at what the investors think of the stock. And at this point, that looks to me like a trend of lower highs and lower lows, and we don't need that one yet. Fusion Fuel, pretty ugly chart. Wow, I just keep pressing too hard. Sorry. Array Technologies. This one came out, literally popped off the screen. IPO'd down here at $22. Looks like it's going to do a round trip all the way back to where it started. Again, you see a PPO trend line here starting to make higher lows. For me, this is at least something I could look at a little bit more. Because this PPO came up so much down here, I'd like that. Now, you go look at a long-term chart of copper. Basically, PPO got back up to zero and it just kept rolling over. Until that can meaningfully change, it's just a better place to avoid. Anyway, what we want to see here is, does the technology finally get kicked in? And again, you're 50% off, so it's not like you haven't been able to get some sort of a pullback here. Luminar Technologies, big trend of lower highs and lower lows. So far, trying to make a stab at a higher low here. PPO very close to zero, so even just scanning for a move above zero on the PPO might give you some charts to go look at on this particular clean energy basket. Okay, Sunova, without question, pulling down hard. Again, big downtrend in momentum. Nothing, this just barely got to zero. What happened? It fell right apart again. So up here in this triangle range, got very close and then literally left. So be aware of just how sensitive these names are. Not sure why that chart didn't load. Okay, NIO, another big car company, just breaking below support. Again, one of the reasons we want to look today specifically was going back to the NASDAQ and its relative outperformance versus the rest of the group here. So the NASDAQ is almost turned positive on a big ugly day. So the Dow's down 450 or whatever, but the NASDAQ's almost gone positive. So it's that kind of a reversal day that perhaps can get us interested in some of these stocks. And here's the actual NASDAQ composite. Looking in, it looks like a pretty ugly downtrend. Again, PPO trending lower. Can it start to turn higher? And if so, maybe there's an opportunity to buy these names. Again, we looked through the charts. Lots of them were trying to make some sort of a reversal. So we'll see here. But that's a pretty nice push here, saying somebody's interested in buying these as they come down. And again, 30 and 50% off. So hopefully there's some clues there. If you'd like to learn more about following these stocks, the whole clean energy trade, I do send out a newsletter usually once a week talking specifically about the charts that are nice. So if you're interested in that, you can find that at gregschnell.com/explore. And that would give you a discount of 40% off the totals here. So as we go through these vicious sector rotations, so let's just say copper and steel top out, lumber tops out, all of a sudden we move back into tech names and they take off. This is the kind of idea that we want to be aware of, those quick rapid turns. So thanks for taking the time to join me on Market Buzz. Market Buzz airs Wednesdays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. You can also see the recording on StockCharts TV YouTube page. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're going to bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.